Hello everyone. Today I will demonstrate how we determine the coefficient of viscosity of a given liquid using a falling ball viscometer in our physics lab. So you could see the experimental setup. So this is the experimental setup and this is the falling ball viscometer. You see a glass tube, a long glass tube containing the given liquid, and this whole system is supported by a wooden stand. And using to determine the coefficient of viscosity using this falling ball viscometer, we need some spherical ball, and in our lab we use different steel ball. You could see we use different steel ball of different diameter. Okay. Before we start recording the data, let us first look at the forces acting on a ball as it is moving through the liquid column. So you can see the ball is moving through the liquid column. Now if you look at the forces acting on this object, so there are three forces acting on the ball. One is the gravitational force, which is equal to mass times g, that is mass times acceleration due to gravity, and this is acting downward direction. There are two upward force acting on the spherical ball as it moves through the liquid. The one is due to the buoyancy, which is equal to the weight of the displaced liquid by the spherical ball, and the another upward force is acting, which is the viscous force of the liquid, that is the frictional force which is acting in the opposite direction to its velocity. Now how do we determine the viscous force? So according to Stokes' law, the viscous force acting on a small spherical ball falling in a liquid column of infinite extent, the viscous force is proportional to the velocity of the ball, and the viscous force is given by 6 pi eta rv, where eta is the coefficient of viscosity, r is the radius of the spherical ball, and v is the velocity. Okay, so let us now analyze the motion of the spherical ball a little bit more closely. So as I drop the ball very close to the top surface, so it accelerates due to gravity, and as it accelerates, its velocity increases, and as velocity increases, since the viscous force is proportional to the velocity, its viscous force also increases. So as it passes through the liquid column, at certain time the total force balances, meaning that the net upward force balances the net downward force. So the net upward force due to buoyancy and viscous force balances the gravitational force. So once this force balance condition is reached, so the ball attains a steady state velocity and moves with a constant velocity through the liquid column. And this constant velocity is called the terminal velocity. Now the question is, how do we determine the terminal velocity? Okay, so to determine the terminal velocity, we have to first ensure that before we start measuring the terminal velocity, the ball has attained the steady state velocity or the terminal velocity. And how do we check that? To check that, we use two reference pointer. You could see a pointer 1. So this is the, let's say, pointer A, and there is another pointer which is pointer B, the second pointer. So what do we do? So we will, by shifting the position of this pointer, we can check whether the ball has attained the terminal velocity before reaching the pointer position. So how do we do? So let's say I have set the first pointer at 10 centimeter below the top surface, and the second pointer is placed from the first pointer at 60 centimeter below the first pointer. Okay. Let us now measure the time required for the ball to cross this distance from pointer A to pointer B, which is now set as 60 centimeter. So what I will do, I will drop the ball very close to the top surface, and as the ball would cross the pointer, just the pointer A, I will switch on the stopwatch, and as the ball would pass through the second, just cross the second pointer, I would stop the stopwatch. That way we will have the time taken by the ball. Okay, so let's start. So I'm just dropping the ball very close to the top surface. Okay, start. Now it is falling through the liquid column, and as it just crosses the second pointer, I would stop. Okay, so now I have the time required for the ball to cross this 60 centimeter distance. Now to check whether the ball has reached attained the terminal velocity before reaching the first pointer, what we will do, so we will shift the pointer position. So now the first pointer is set at the 10 centimeter below the top surface. So we can set the first pointer at 15 centimeter below the top surface, and similarly we can set the second pointer at 60 centimeter distance from the first pointer. Below the first pointer is a 60 centimeter distance, and we can measure by a meter scale, we can set that. So here, by shifting the window, the main point over here, by shifting the window, shifting the pointer position, keeping the distance between the between these two pointer, let's say over here 60 centimeter, we would measure the time taken by the ball to cross the same distance. Now, if the ball has attained the terminal velocity before reaching the first pointer, then what would happen, even if we shift the pointer position, keeping the distance constant, so we will see if the ball moves with a constant velocity, so it will take the same time to cross the same path, same distance. So when we will see that if the ball has not reached to the terminal velocity, then the time taken would also vary. Okay, so now I have set the first pointer position such that the ball attains the terminal velocity before reaching the first pointer. Okay, and so we are now ready to measure the terminal velocity. So I have set the first pointer at 15 centimeter below the top surface, and the second pointer at 70 centimeter distance from the first pointer. So now we would measure the terminal velocity, and how we are going to measure the terminal velocity. So I will drop the ball at raised from very close to the top surface, and when it passes through the first pointer, I would switch on the stopwatch, and when it just crosses the second pointer, I'll switch off the stopwatch. That way we will know if the distance between these two pointers is S, and the time taken by the ball from this point to cross this path, first pointer to second pointer, is T, then the terminal velocity, since the ball is moving with a constant velocity along the tube, so it will be terminal velocity is just distance by time. Okay, so now let's measure the terminal velocity, record one data. So I'm dropping the ball, and which is near to the axis of the liquid column, so that is away from the wall of the glass. Okay, start. And I will stop when it just crosses the second pointer. Stop. Okay, so now we have the time required to cross, now we have measured the time for the ball to cross this distance, and as to we can calculate the terminal velocity. But so we have to increase the accuracy, we have to repeat this experiment many times, at least 5 times. It's better to take, if we can measure the terminal velocity for one type of ball 10 times, see. And also another thing I would like to point out, see, when I am looking at the ball, it is crossing the first pointer, and then I am switching on my stopwatch. So so we all have a reaction time, response time from the visual stimulus. So to minimize that error, our reaction time, so we need to repeat the experiment several times, even for one type of ball. And as I have already mentioned, in our lab, what we do, we perform this experiment, we calculate the terminal velocity for 3 different steel ball having 3 diameter, like you see. So this is all are the very small sphere steel balls, but there are these diameters are different. You could even see the diameters are different, and for each, so from each ball we would perform the experiment 5 to 10 times and calculate the terminal velocity. Now another, if you look at, if we see the force balance condition, then we will see that the terminal velocity is proportional to the square of the radius. So Vt is proportional to r square. So having the spherical ball having the higher radius will attain a higher terminal velocity. By performing this experiment for different diameter, we can also verify that how terminal velocity varies with the radius of the spherical ball. And there are another point I should tell you. It's while measuring the terminal velocity in this setup, the terminal velocity is the velocity we measure is very close to the terminal velocity, but it is not exact. Why? Because if we solve the equation of motion of the ball falling through a liquid column under these 3 forces, so we will see that the velocity increases and approaches to the terminal velocity with an exponential form. So in principle, it reaches to the exact terminal value, steady state value, at sufficiently large time, or in principle at infinite time. However, since we use a high viscous liquid, and also the spherical ball are very small mass, so that's why in our setup the velocity reaches to the very close to the terminal velocity quite fast. But you have to keep it in mind while reporting the error in your measurement. Okay. So when we are talking about the error, there is another correction need to be addressed, which is, see, the viscous force, the Stokes law, is applicable for a spherical ball which is moving through a fluid of infinite extent. But here you could see you have a finite glass tube. It is long, but it is not infinitely long. So it has a finite radius and also a finite length. So the viscous force 6 pi eta rv will have a correction term due to the finite radius and finite length of the tube. So we can measure the length of the tube by using simply a meter scale. Like you can calculate the length, and we need to also calculate the inner diameter of the tube. And how we can do that? So we can use the slide calipers to calculate the inner diameter. So this has a least count. So as you have done in the class, so it is like, this is now 50 vernier scale, it matches with 49 main scale, and we can calculate the least count, which is 0.02 millimeter, and we can calculate the inner, using the vernier caliper, we can calculate the inner diameter of the tube, and this is required to calculate the correction term due to the finite length of the tube. Okay, so now we have measured the terminal velocity of different steel ball. So we have 3 different type of steel ball having 3 different diameter. So once we have calculated the terminal velocity for each set of ball, we need to also calculate the radius of the ball and mass of the ball. And the radius, since the diameter you could see is tiny, so we would use the screw gauge to use the to calculate the diameter of this steel ball. And you know how to calculate the diameter. You have to take the linear reading and the circular scale reading, that way you can calculate the diameter of. And we need to also calculate a mass of this ball using the digital balance. But however, since this is small, mass is very small, so what we do, we generally take in number of balls together, let's say 5 or 10 balls, and then we measure the mass using the digital balance. And this is just to increase the accuracy of the measurement, and then we calculate the mass of each ball dividing by the number of ball. So now we have, once we calculate the radius, so we know the volume of each ball, which is this is spherical ball, so it is 4 by 3 pi r cube, and we have also measured the mass of these balls. So once we know the volume and mass, so we know the density of, so we can calculate the density of the steel balls. Now once we have calculated the terminal velocity, we have calculated the radius, and we have calculated the density of this spherical ball, and we need another quantity, which is the density of the liquid, to calculate the buoyant force. And density of the liquid we do not calculate, this will be given to you for the given liquid. So once we have the densities, terminal velocities and the radius, now we can calculate from the force balance condition, that is the gravitational force equal to the buoyant force and viscous force. From this force balance condition, we can easily determine the coefficient of viscosity of a given liquid. And this is all for today. I will discuss more in the class. Thank you.